Imagine this. It's just a chilling scene. Varna Airport in Bulgaria. You see this young man on CCTV, Lars Mittank, and he looks utterly terrified. Then, just like that, in a split second, he bolts, sprints through the terminal, leaps over a barbed wire fence, and vanishes into this field of 6 foot high sunflowers. And with that, he became, well, one of YouTube's most famous missing persons. That footage, it's haunting. Millions have seen it. So our deep dive today pulls us right into the baffling case of Lars Mittank. We're not just, replaying the viral video, we're going to try and reconstruct those intense days leading up to his disappearance from Varna Airport back in July 2014. And beyond just the theories about what happened to him, our mission here is to connect Lars's individual story to something much bigger, something often unseen. We're talking about the tens of thousands of missing persons, victims of enforced disappearances right across Europe. We really want to offer you a comprehensive look, get you thinking critically, and just underscore the profound human cost behind these mysteries.
Absolutely. And to do that, we've gathered insights from, well, a pretty diverse range of sources. We've dug into some really compelling Reddit discussions, places like Run Resolve Mysteries, Unsolved Mysteries 2. We've looked at clips from shows like Cold Case Detective, read through articles from Grunge, and importantly, examined a key issue paper from the Council of Europe that focuses specifically on missing persons.
Okay, so let's trace the steps back. Lars Mittank, he was 28. A German precision mechanic. People described him as athletic, grounded, known history of mental illness. And in June 2014, he goes on what was apparently his first real party trip, a week-long holiday to Golden Sands, Bulgaria, popular spot on the Black Sea. He went with 5 friends.
Right, and the initial sort of turning point seems to have happened on July 5th. Lars and his friends are at this place, the Mystery of Cocktails Bar, watching a FIFA World Cup match. Lars, he's wearing a Werder Bremen football shirt. And he gets into this short verbal argument. It was with some Bayern Munich fans, something about swapping flags. His friends jumped in pretty quickly, calmed things down. Seemed like no big deal at the time.
But then things seemed to escalate, and quite dramatically. Early on July 6th, they'd left a McDonald's near the beach, and Lars got separated from his friends. Later, he claimed he was attacked by 2 men, maybe Russian, maybe Bulgarian, he wasn't sure. He thought they'd been paid by those Bayern fans from the bar, and he said he got a ruptured left eardrum from it. But what's interesting, maybe a bit strange, is that his friends, they noticed his behavior was becoming odd, and they weren't entirely sure they believed his story.
Yeah. And the medical side kicks in on July 7th. Lars feels his ear pain getting worse, his hearing's affected. A local doctor diagnoses a perforated eardrum, okay, and strongly advises him not to fly because of the air pressure changes.
Yeah.
Now, Lars is worried. He's thinking about his job back in Germany, considering staying for treatment. His friends actually offered to stay with him, which is quite something. But he turned them down. Said he was fine. He'd sorted out with his health insurance,
So his friends fly back home, leaving Lars alone in Bulgaria. That night, he leaves St. Anna Hospital. Now, an ENT specialist there did confirm the eardrum issue, but Lars apparently refused surgery. Why? We don't really know. After that, he goes and buys an antibiotic, cefprozil, then checks into the hotel color. And this place, well, it's described as seedy, cheap, and a pretty rundown, maybe unsafe area. He specifically mentions seeing shady men hanging around outside. That must have just heightened his anxiety, surely.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where his paranoia seems to become really clear, really intense. He calls his mother Sandra. He sounds incredibly agitated, just terrified. He's saying the hotel receptionist tried to clone his credit card, tells his mom to block it right away. He keeps saying someone wants to rob him, maybe even kill him. Then he sends her a text, which is quite odd, what Shift 500 is, asking about the antibiotic. Later, another call or text claiming 4 men are actively chasing him. His poor mother, completely panicked, books him a flight and a bus ticket for the very next day.
Which brings us to the morning of July 8th, the airport climax. Lars gets to Varna Airport around 6 a.m. He's visibly terrified. Witnesses said his pupils were really dilated. He calls his mom again, asks her to send money via Western Union. Then he goes to see the airport doctor, a Dr. Kostov. The doctor examines his ear, checks his temperature, and then tells him, critically, that he can fly if he signs a waiver. Says the eardrum thing is not that serious.
And this leads directly to that crucial moment. The one captured on the CCTV footage that everyone has seen. It's 10:08 a.m. Lars suddenly, inexplicably, just bolts from the doctor's office. He leaves everything behind, his phone, his passport, his wallet, all of it. Sprints through the terminal, slows down for a second outside, then picks up speed again. He scales this high barbed wire fence and just disappears into that field of enormous sunflowers next to a highway. And that's it. He has never, ever been seen again.
But here's where the story gets even Well, murkier. It raises real questions about the official accounts. That airport doctor, Dr. Kostov, he initially claimed some third individual came into the room. First he said it was an airline employee, then maybe a construction worker, then just an unknown man, claiming that's what startled Lars and made him run. But he changed his story multiple times later, which, immediately makes you suspicious.
Right, red flags straight away.
Exactly. And what's more, Lars's mother, Sandra, she later said she was shown more CCTV footage, stuff not released publicly. And she claims this footage showed Lars deliberately avoiding police cars outside the airport, moving stealthily, hiding behind buses and piles of sand. That paints a very different picture, doesn't it? Not just blind panic, but maybe some kind of calculated evasion.
It absolutely does. It adds another layer of complexity to an already baffling situation.
So, okay, we've walked through those final bewildering days, but the huge question everyone asks is still just hanging there. Why? Why did Lars run like that? And what on earth happened to him next? There are just so many theories out there.
Yeah, and this is where the mystery really goes deep, trying to figure it out. Broadly, we see like two main categories of theories trying to explain Lars's behavior. You've got the ones focusing on medical or mental health reasons, and then you have theories that suggest some kind of criminal involvement. It's a whole spectrum, really.
Okay, let's start with the medical side. His ear, the head injury possibility. I mean, he's diagnosed with a ruptured eardrum. Could that injury, or maybe a concussion he didn't realize he had, explain everything? The paranoia, the running.
It's definitely a line of inquiry. Some sources do suggest a link, yeah. Maybe a minor brain bleed or a TBI, traumatic brain injury, causing that confusion and paranoia. But there's actually quite a bit of debate about how severe that ear injury really was or what its effects would be. Some medical opinions we looked at suggested, well, flying with a perforated eardrum isn't always forbidden, and the pain might not be enough to cause such an extreme reaction. But then others strongly disagree, describing it as potential agony, or at least extremely uncomfortable and painful.
So the medical advice itself was conflicting.
It seems that way, yes, which
Right.
raises a huge question. Was Lars given bad or misleading advice that just amplified his fear? It's possible.
And then there's the medication he bought, cefprozil. His mother, and some people looking at the case, they really believe this drug could be key, especially maybe combined with alcohol from the holiday, the stress.
Could it have triggered some kind of psychotic episode? I mean, he even texted his mother asking what Cefsil 500 is, like he was confused about it.
Right, and that text is significant. It does make you wonder about side effects. Now, technically, psychosis is listed as a potential, very rare side effect for lots of drugs. For cefprozil specifically, it's considered extraordinarily rare. Like you've got a 99.99% chance of just maybe feeling nauseous or getting itchy. However, you have to consider the context, right? Alcohol, definite lack of sleep, extreme stress, being alone in a foreign country. That combination could potentially exacerbate any reaction, even a rare one.
And didn't the doctor say he hadn't taken it?
Yes, that's another inconsistency. The airport doctor claimed Lars hadn't taken the medication, but later, a blister pack with some pills missing was found among Lars's belongings left at the airport. So that discrepancy just adds more suspicion about the doctor's account, frankly. Okay, beyond the ear and the drugs, what about a broader mental health crisis? Maybe something undiagnosed.
That's definitely a strong contender for many people analyzing the case. What stands out is Lars's age, 28. That age actually lines up pretty closely with the typical onset for certain conditions, like schizophrenia. And the symptoms he was showing, delusions of being followed, intense fear for his life, really erratic behavior, they're consistent with psychosis.
Even without any family history of it.
It's possible, yeah. Sometimes these things can be triggered. Think about the intense stress he was under. He had a demanding job. Apparently his father was ill back home. Then he gets attacked. Supposedly he's injured, isolated in a foreign country. It could potentially trigger what they call a first break psychosis, the first acute episode. And you mentioned that hotel, the hotel color, being seedy.
Yeah, described as cheap, rundown.
Some reports mention the walls were really thin. So imagine hearing muffled conversations, maybe arguments, footsteps. If you're already paranoid, that could easily amplify everything, creating this awful feedback loop of fear.
Okay, let's shift gears then. Let's look at the criminal theories. These get talked about a lot online, like some people on Reddit speculated Lars might have been involved in something illegal, a drug mule maybe, perhaps acting as like insurance for his friends and then panicked when he thought he'd get caught. Or maybe he'd ingested drugs himself, something ruptured causing the breakdown. Others even bring up human trafficking, pointing to Bulgaria's higher rates. Could he have been targeted for forced labor or sex work or something even darker like organ harvesting?
These theories are out there, definitely. But if we try to ground them a bit, the drug mule idea, it faces some challenges. For one, no drugs were found in the luggage he left behind, which was searched. And smuggling drugs by plane within the EU, especially back then when Bulgaria wasn't in the Schengen area, the border-free zone, is generally seen as less common for significant amounts compared to land routes. Plus, Lars had absolutely no criminal record. He doesn't fit the typical profile. Now, the human trafficking angle, or being targeted because he was in a dodgy area. Well, the hotel color was apparently in a high-crime area. But if he was being coerced or threatened to that extent, why wouldn't he run to the police at the airport rather than away from them, as his mother's account suggests? It's hard to square that circle.
So if it wasn't drugs or trafficking, what about the original threat? Was he genuinely being pursued by those men who allegedly attacked him near the beach, or maybe someone else? He explicitly told his mother, "They want to kill me." The fear in his voice, she said, was absolutely real.
And that's the most direct explanation, based on his own words. But it hits a major roadblock: evidence, or lack thereof. There are simply no witnesses who ever corroborated seeing Lars being followed or threatened by anyone after that initial alleged attack. Not even his friends saw anything when they were still with him. And the airport CCTV that has been released doesn't show anyone obviously tailing him either.
But he vanished so completely.
Exactly. The complete lack of any trace. No bank account activity, no confirmed sightings anywhere, nobody ever found. That's what keeps the foul play theories alive. It leads people to speculate he must have been killed shortly after running, or abducted, or maybe he somehow managed to go into hiding so effectively that he's never been detected. There was even one quite grim, but you have to admit, plausible theory on Reddit, suggesting he might have run onto the nearby highway in his panic, got hit by a truck, and maybe the driver panicked and buried him somewhere nearby, unmarked. That could explain why nobody has ever surfaced.
Wow. Okay. We've gone deep into Lars's specific, baffling disappearance. It's a case that truly captivates people, millions of them. But what does this one story, the single haunting case, tell us about the bigger picture? The much larger, often unseen crisis of missing persons across Europe.
That's exactly the right question to ask now. Because Lars's story, his desperate flight, however we try to explain it, it really forces us to confront a terrifying reality. Even in modern, supposedly interconnected Europe, you can have these gaps. Gaps in care, inconsistencies in official stories, sheer human vulnerability. And these things can converge in a way that allows individuals to just vanish, as if they never existed. It really makes us think about how we categorize cases like Lars as a broader context. The Council of Europe, for instance, defines a missing person quite broadly, just someone whose whereabouts are unknown. Could be conflict, violence, an accident. But then there's enforced disappearance. That's different. That's a specific, very serious crime under international law. It means state actors, or people acting with the state's okay, are involved. And the intention is to remove someone from the protection of the law, make them disappear outside the system.
It's so easy to get completely absorbed by the mystery of one person, like Lars Mittank. It's compelling. But what's the larger significance here? Why should this one disappearance make us look harder at the tens of thousands of other cases across Europe, cases we often never hear about?
Well, because, as the Council of Europe argues, shifting focus helps move us from just, morbid fascination towards accountability and empathy. And the scale, when you look at it, is just staggering. Tens of thousands of people remain missing or are victims of enforced disappearance right across the continent. These aren't just random events. They often stem from historical or ongoing issues, repressive regimes, conflicts. Think about places like Chechnya, Spain's past, Turkey, Cyprus. The numbers are huge, and often they're deliberately kept out of the public eye.
So, connecting back to that Council of Europe perspective, they emphasize a victim-centered approach. What does that actually mean for the families who were left searching?
It fundamentally means recognizing their immense suffering. These families have a basic human right to know the truth, what happened to their loved one. They also have a right to access justice and to receive reparations for the harm done. And this right isn't just about the individual family, it's collective too. Society as a whole has a right, even a need, to know when serious human rights violations have happened. It's about transparency, it's about preventing it from happening again, and it's about trying to restore trust in the institutions that are supposed to protect people.
It sounds like trying to find answers, especially in these larger, more systemic cases, must be incredibly difficult.
Oh, incredibly so. Investigations face huge obstacles. Often there's just a chronic lack of resources. Sometimes there's a lack of political will to really dig into uncomfortable truths. Access to crucial archives might be blocked. And even when you get judgments, say from the European Court of Human Rights, rulings that are meant to bring clarity and justice, they often just go unimplemented by the states involved. which effectively re-victimizes the families all over again. They fight for years, get a ruling, and then nothing changes.
That's awful.
It is. And it highlights just how crucial the work of victims associations and NGOs really is. These groups often work under really difficult conditions, sometimes even at great personal risk. They're the ones documenting cases, trying to locate clandestine grave sites, pushing constantly for legal and policy changes. It's a stark picture, really, of what can happen when someone is vulnerable and the systems meant to protect them either fail completely or simply aren't there in the first place.
So wrapping up, the disappearance of Lars Mittank. It remains one of the most enigmatic, truly unresolved mysteries out there, a chilling, real-life puzzle with a very human face that has understandably haunted millions online. We've tried to meticulously explore the timeline, those desperate calls to his mother, the really confusing and conflicting medical advice, and the just myriad theories, from a sudden mental health crisis to some kind of dark criminal encounter. And honestly, we're left with far more questions than answers about what really happened in Varna that day.
Absolutely. And Lars's story, I think, profoundly underscores the devastating impact that uncertainty has on families. It also highlights that complex interplay between individual vulnerability, being alone, injured, scared in a foreign place, and the systemic challenges we see in missing persons cases across the globe. Whether it was a sudden medical episode or an unforeseen criminal encounter, or maybe something else entirely we haven't even considered. His case is just such a stark reminder of how quickly a normal life can completely unravel, especially when faced with the inexplicable and unfamiliar surroundings.
So, here's a final thought for you, something to mull over. Considering the millions and millions of views on Lars Mittank's final desperate video, and then thinking about the countless other missing persons cases across Europe, many of which receive little or perhaps no public attention at all, what responsibility do we have? As a globalized society, and maybe especially through our powerful digital platforms, is there a responsibility to move beyond just being fascinated by these individual mysteries and instead to actively advocate, to push for the truth, for justice, and for real support for all of those who vanish into the unseen?